Hello, we're doing something different, a little more candid. This is not our typical video. Instead, this week we're doing like a little bonus episode about our experience on last year's Baja-Haha rally in hopes of giving you, if you're going this year, in hopes of giving you some additional information for your trip.
Here you go.
So when we first bought our boat on the opposite coast of what we thought we were going to buy a boat on, it was in California versus where we thought we were going to buy in Florida or the Carolinas or something. So we ended up booking a spot on the Haha because it gave us a hard departure date for leaving. And still to this day, we consider that one of the best things we did for ourselves last year. It made it so that we weren't caught up on the dock doing a bunch of work or convincing ourselves that we weren't ready. It was do or die. We're going to go do this thing. So having that hard departure date was totally worth it. If you're trying to get into cruising and you just can't find that push, highly recommend signing up for some kind of rally or something and using that as your jumping off point to get going.
Yeah, so the departure date was also very beneficial for our project list. The boat was new to us, as Emily mentioned, and as anybody who's bought a boat can tell you, there's a lot of projects that need to get done. Having that departure date really helped me limit the number of projects that we were going to get done before we left, and it helped me keep it in control. Without that hard departure date, we'd probably be working on projects 6 months later. And they were all things that I thought were critical at the time, but we left and we either did them while we were sailing or they ended up never needing to be done. So getting off the dock's important, and the Baja definitely lets you do that. Good force for that.
Yeah, I feel like one of the hardest lessons we learned, which we weren't willing to accept, but when we did finally accept it, was a breath of relief, is that you don't know what you need until you're already out there going. Obviously you don't need leaks in your boat or anything like that, but when you're trying to prioritize your list, it's important to think about what can be done while you're underway or just on the hook even. And that really put things in perspective for us and helped us kind of talk ourselves off the ledge of needing to do 300 things before we left the dock.
Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind, again, if you're someone who's trying to get started, keep in mind that you don't know what you need until you're already out there, or what you can't live without, really. There were some things that would have been really nice and really convenient to have, but once we got out there, we were we're happy we didn't take up space with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind.
As far as for the people who are doing the Baja and coming home, you're fine. For those staying in Mexico, I would at least recommend knowing your next couple of projects and ordering all of those parts and bringing them on board with you. It's nearly impossible to get parts in Mexico. You're certainly not going to find much skilled labor as you go. So people who can do it themselves, just order all the parts you need beforehand. We also have just a boatload of spares and tools, and they've all come in handy. I can't imagine going through and cruising the Sea of Cortez without all the tools that we had. Yeah, the boat would have fallen to pieces for sure.
Yeah, which is another good point to make. If you are not someone who considers yourself particularly handy or you're not used to working with tools, we have also agreed that having a base knowledge of hand tools at the least was extremely beneficial to us moving into full-time cruising. It's something that is relatively easy to learn along the way, but your projects go through much faster and much more efficiently if you already semi-know what you're doing with your tools. So if you have a beginner toolkit or something in your garage or whatever, take on small projects around your house to try to learn how to use them. It makes a big difference when you're out there.
The other big thing, you can't get tools down there in Mexico. You also can't get much of convenient foods. You can get all the basics. But before you leave on the Haha, you'll want to stock up on your provisions pretty heavily.
If you've been following us on Instagram since its inception, you will remember the Instagram story that I posted of me scanning the dinghy of all of our food for the Haha, and more than one person commented on how many bottles of ranch we bought at Costco.
Yeah.
We had 6 bottles of ranch with us, Costco-sized bottles. It was funny. But yeah, to Bill's point, if you have particular foods or specifically snacks that you are really particular to, stock up on that stuff in the States. We did a huge 2 overflowing cartful Costco run before we left, and it was definitely worth it. And it lasted us through the Haha, which is what, 2 or 3 weeks long, and we didn't have to reprovision until we hit La Paz, which was almost what, a full month and a half, 2 months later.
Yeah,
it was awesome. We have less storage on our boat though.
yeah, stock up, especially I would say for meats as well, proteins. The quality of proteins in Mexico is definitely lower. So if you have a freezer, fill it. Get your beef, your chicken, your steaks.
Yeah, most people were fishing on the way down last year and had it was really good fishing on the way down, mahis and all kinds of stuff. So yellowtails, but again, just you never know what you're gonna catch. You never know what the conditions are gonna be like. Yeah. So stock up as much as you can.
At least for me, I think I'm giving a skew to the history of it, including a season in the Sea of Cortez. So if that's your case, you want as much meat.
Very true.
Yeah, you'll just get tired of fish.
Very
the Baja-Haha was good for fishing, but 6 months of fishing, you've had every fish.
And we did go quite a ways after being in the sea for a while. We did go quite a long time without catching anything aside from bonito, which it's good for the dog, not great for us. So it was nice to have that backlog of proteins in the freezer.
Got all the food on, and we actually decided we're not from California, and we didn't have like a permanent dock there. So in preparation for the Haha starting, we actually started our trip 2 weeks earlier and went to Catalina Island first. Catalina Island is nearby San Diego. You have to do an overnight sail to get down there. But it's close enough to the LA area that if anything went wrong, you'd be able to get back into a dock pretty quickly. And they have, what's the anchorage called?
Cat Harbor?
Cat Harbor. They have Cat Harbor, which is free to anchor in for up to 2 weeks. They'll even have a guy come out and like pump out your boat for you. Just give him a tip. It's all pretty nice.
He was nice.
Yeah, so we hung out there. That's how the Haha started for us.
That's how cruising started for us.
Yeah, that was actually the start of our cruising as well. We ran out of time there, and we went down to another anchorage at Catalina Island. It wasn't anything special.
I think it was called White's Landing.
We were there for one night, and then we pushed right on to, what's that one north of San Diego?
Half Moon Bay or something like that?
Yeah, is that it? Half Moon something or other?
It's where the water park is. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head.
We'll overlay a map right here. If you want to follow our route, we went from Catalina down to Half Moon, and then the Haha will open up a section of the San Diego area to anchor in specifically for Haha people. We were there on the very first day that it opened.
And there were people that were there before us as well.
Yeah.
So to get a decent spot there earlier rather than later, it does fill up pretty quickly. I feel like we were waking up every morning to at least like 5 new boats around. So it does fill up. We were happy we got in early. It also allowed us to run every possible errand we needed to in the meantime.
Yeah, we were obviously living on the boat. Our dinghy didn't have an outboard, so we had to row a lot. There's a lot of rowing if you don't have an outboard.
It was so bad.
But we found it to be beneficial because we rented a car, and it's really easy to park a car on that island.
Coronado? Is it Coronado?
Yeah, I think it's Coronado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the residential streets there, at least when we were there, were free to park overnight. So we rented a car for a few days just to get some errands done, and parking was probably like a 10 or 15 minute walk around the marina and the bay, but it was really convenient. They do some seminars in the week leading up to the Haha, which we just never had time to make it to. We did have a couple people tell us that they were pretty informative, but we never made it to those.
By that time, we had gotten rid of the rental car, so it would have cost us an Uber to get over there, because where you anchor is not where they hold the events, and the Ubers were not cheap getting over that big ass bridge.
Yeah, we didn't do much in the way of seminars. We did go to the welcome party, the little Halloween party that they threw, and that was really fun, worth going to, just to meet some of the other boats around. The anchorage was pretty, like, people were very welcoming in the anchorage, and we met plenty of people. I think we did like a sundowners on the beach there one night. So that's not to say that people are antisocial before the Haha, but everybody's so busy that it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to really like get together and meet people and know people, or get to know people. So I agree with Will that really that like first morning where you're all heading out of San Diego Bay is like the start of the camaraderie, and it's honestly really fun. That initial push out of the out of the bay is chaos at its finest, but it's high energy and it's a lot of fun. You have the military boats coming in while the 150 boats are trying to leave, and it's a lot, but it's fun. It was a good time. We will look back on it fondly for sure.
Yeah, We woke up a bit early, which I'd recommend to those watching, and directly across from the anchorage is a public water and pump out. So we woke up early and serviced all of our tanks like the moment before we left. We pushed up that dock and left.
Yeah.
So we left with full and empty tanks, and it was very nice.
I don't think our water maker was quite up and running at the time, so we wanted to make sure that we were full on water in case something happened with the water maker.
Mm-hmm.
The pump out we didn't really need, but I'm still glad that we did it anyways, just in case. Again, because the boat was so new to us, we weren't sure what was going to work and what wasn't. I don't think we've ever talked about it before, but we only owned our boat for 3 months prior to moving aboard it. And then we were only living on board for a little under a month when we left the dock to go live on the hook. So we had like no time to really get to know Appa before we took off, which maybe wasn't smart, but at the same time, totally worth it.
No reason to get into like every piece of it.
Mm-mm.
So the first thing I would probably mention is the pace. We were setting off on our cruising experience, not exclusively the Haha experience. And because of that, we approached the Haha as we would normal cruising, in that we went slow and tried to use our sails and tried to use the weather to our advantage. And that was not the intention of the Haha. The Haha is meant to go down as a group. And I think if we really wanted to reap the benefits of joining the Haha, we probably should have kicked our motors on to keep up with the pack a little bit better. And I mean, we even missed some events. We missed a whole day, I think, in one place.
I think that first day in Bahia Tortuga, it was kind of like a free-for-all. People went into town and stuff like that. We ended up coming in the middle of the night that night. So we missed the first day, the first party at Tortuga, and then we ended up missing the Squid Row party in Cabo at the very end of the Haha because, again, we came in like first thing in the morning.
Yeah, we were always back in the pack.
Yeah.
We were trying to like sail as much as possible.
Yeah, which again is not something that we necessarily regret, but if you are in it for the social aspect, don't worry so much about using your sails like we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was speed. I recommend keeping up with the pack. The other thing was check-in. It's going to be different every year, it sounds like, so we won't go into too much detail. We followed the rules that they had, and it was super easy. We went to them, they stamped it. I don't even know if I talked to the guy. I think I just handed over all the passports. They stamped them, and off I went. So I wouldn't stress too much about that.
Yeah, but also, again, don't take our word for what you are going to experience this year. It does sound like it changes year over year based on availability of customs people and lenience on the government's part. So even though we had an easy time, be prepared with all your paperwork. Speaking of paperwork, if you don't know anything about your boat's TIP, which is the temporary import permit for Mexico, go check that like right this instant.
Yeah, I'd probably like pause the video right now and go check it and come back. We had talked to our previous owners, and they had confirmed they canceled the previous tip, so it should have been easy for us to submit for a new one. I submitted for a new one, and lo and behold, there was an issue. The previous tip had not been canceled. Fear not, if you find yourself in this position. We were panicking. This is like 1 week before we're supposed to leave. We had missed the cutoff, I'm sure, for the Haha deadlines. But there are resources in Mexico that you can get in touch with who will help expedite the tip.
If we can find the woman's information that we used, we will put it somewhere either in the description or here. She was extremely helpful. I don't think we would have gotten our tip in time if it weren't for her. She was extremely helpful.
Yeah, and we paid extra because we had such little lead time before the start of the Baja. So again, if you didn't do it last time, do it now. Pause the video, go check your tip. It's going to make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, if you find yourself with tip issues and we have not answered your question, but think that we might be able to help you with your predicament, feel free to drop us a comment. That was our biggest stressor during the Haha, and we don't want to see anybody else have to go through that. Even though it was like half our fault because we waited so long to check it, it was really, really stressful. So if we can save you some of that stress, drop us a comment. We'll do our best to answer your questions.
That's the check-in process. That's the speed. You're going to have a fun time at all of the stops. Again, we recommend you get there with the pack so you can enjoy that fun time. Route planning between stops is totally up to you. When you leave the anchorage is also totally up to you. Most people do leave with the pack, but we had one morning with inclement weather, and part of the group decided to stay back and wait for calmer seas. Totally fine. but the actual route plan in between stops is on you. We'll do a little side note here. Our first night out, somebody almost hit us. It was during a shift change at like midnight. It was dark, and they were off our port side, pretty far off. They tacked and just like steamlined right at us. We fell off significantly to not hit them.
Yeah, we were lucky that it was like during a shift change and we were both awake to be aware of it, because as I was taking over the helm for Will, he happened to be looking over the port side and realizing that the boat was getting closer and closer to us. And if I had been out there alone, or even potentially if he had been out there alone, we wouldn't have noticed and made adjustments as quickly as we did.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, like if I were standing on the bow, I could have just like reached out and touched this boat by the time we were passing them. It was extremely close and extremely scary. And I was sitting there like, we are in the middle of the ocean. Why are you so close to me? It was a lot, especially for the first night of the Haha. We were like, is the rest of it going to be like this? Just irresponsible boating.
It was fine. My point for all of that was saying you're going to be sailing amongst a lot of other people, which after now a year of full-time cruising, we've never sailed around that many boats actively again. So just be a little more prudent on your watches, because there's a lot more boats out there, and everyone's making their own course. So you're going to have boats coming in from left and right.
I hadn't planned to talk about this, but you made me think about it. We did the Haha just the two of us. Again, the boat was so new to us that we didn't feel comfortable bringing a third or fourth, whatever, person on board with us. But looking back on it, we do wish that we had at least one other person with us. It would have made shifts a lot easier. It would have made like general touring around the boat a lot easier. I think if we were to do it again, we would have at least brought one other crew member with us. So if you have the space and you're comfortable with it and you're kind of like, oh, should I invite crew or not? We recommend doing it just to save you on the night passages for the shifts. It's a long trip. Your first stretch is like, 5 days? It's worth having an extra set of hands around. So there are always people around the Haha like grounds in San Diego looking to crew. I think we met like 3 or 4 people last year who were literally just walking around the dock at the anchorage like, are you looking for crew? Are you looking for crew?
Again, the Haha is meant as the event of the Haha. That's why people do it. They like that. It's not to take in the experience of the west coast of the Baja Peninsula. You fly down that coast. You'll see some cities and towns as you go through, but mostly you're interacting with other Baja-Haha people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for that cultural experience, the Haha may not be for you.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest regrets looking back, was that we didn't get to see much of the west coast of Baja. People would, once we got in to see, people were like, oh, did you stop in this town? Did you see this? This was really cool. Did you see this? And we're like, we didn't even know any of that was there.
We made it down in like 10 days.
Yeah. So looking back, I mean, again, we're glad that we did the Haha because it gave us the hard date to leave. But if we had the time or energy to do it again, it would be nice to see some of those other places.
Mm-hmm. Cabo's a place that we don't need to ever see again. Yeah. That's where it ended. And Cabo's like, it's a party town. It's nothing more, nothing less. The anchorage itself is not very well protected. We got run out by southerly.
It was so bad.
Yeah, there's going to be a big party on Squid Row. That's a ton of fun. There'll be like a beach party. For us, there was like a kissing contest. So they make it fun. They make it interactive. And then you're free to do whatever you want at that point. The Haha's over. It ends with the ceremony. Mm-hmm. I was fun. I won the youngest captain award. Woo!
He won by like 20 years. It was pretty funny. Everybody just kind of turned and looked at him like, how old are you?
I think I was 28, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, have an award ceremony that's over and do whatever you want from that point.
Yeah, we left Cabo pretty much as soon as the Haha events were over with. Mm-hmm. We didn't need to be there any longer than we were.
I think I'd been a little bit conditioned to like the Baja-Haha pace, and we kept going at that pace up to La Paz. I guess from what we found is that if you do plan to go into the Sea of Cortez, there are groups that break off from the Haha group altogether, and then they go up to La Paz together.
So really quick, before we continue down that tangent, there are after events that happen in La Paz. They do like a Thanksgiving, I think, dinner for any Haha members who end up in La Paz or on Thanksgiving. So there is like again, if you're in it for the social aspect, there is a reason to book to La Paz. We were not really in that category, even though we did enjoy the social aspect of it. It was really our jumping off point for cruising. So in spite of that, we ended up making it to La Paz after all of those events were over, but you can continue that pace and make it to La Paz for further Haha events.
I guess this is where the video kind of diverges. If you're here for the Baja-Haha information, you've got it. Enjoy the Haha, go with the flow.
If you're a young person doing the Haha, hang out with your peers. That was what like made the Haha the greatest part of it for us. It was hanging out with all the people who were our age. I think there was like a total of maybe 15 people under the age of like 35, and we all kind of banded together at every meeting and found somebody's boat to go to. So if you're a younger person, find your peers, go hang out with them. You'll have a great time. It'll be a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared to get probably drunker than you anticipated. It's a lot of fun. Find your family.
Mm-hmm.
We still talk to that whole group, by the way. Pretty much everybody that we hung out with in the Haha, they became very good friends of ours that we continue to talk to regularly. So your people are there.
Definitely. So this is where the video diverges. Haha people, you're good, enjoy. For the rest of the people, you might be considering a season in the Sea of Cortez. And this is where we can offer some more insight because it's exactly what we did. We didn't go anywhere on mainland. Our whole goal was to go up the eastern peninsula of the eastern side of the peninsula, the Baja Peninsula, in the Sea of Cortez as slowly as possible. So we got to La Paz probably around...
It was just after Thanksgiving. I think it was close to December 1st.
Yeah, and then that's a place you can get actual provisions. So they have multiple grocery stores, multiple hardware stores, multiple fuel docks, actual like boat shop places.
Yeah, if you're not a West Coast cruiser like we were not, and you've never heard of La Paz before, it's kind of like a cruiser's hub. There's a big like swap meet that happens there every Wednesday or Saturday or something like that. They do morning coffee. It's a big cruiser hub, so you'll be able to potentially get parts, and if something breaks along the way, find it in La Paz.
Mm-hmm. We'll link the book that everybody gets. You should get this book as well. I think I found mine at the swap meet.
Yeah, we did end up getting ours at the swap meet.
Yeah.
We had gone to the local bookstores in town to see if they had them. Again, we knew it was a cruiser hub and that they were likely to have it. The guy who has them in town had just sold his last copy like the previous day or something, and we were looking for it.
Definitely get that book. There's little information that we can tell you that's not already in that book. It's very robust. It has everything you need. If you're interested in the actual anchorages, you can go see our other videos and see how we took them on.
Mm-hmm.
The big lesson I want to get across is to slow down even more. Leaving La Paz, our next goal was to be in Loreto by Christmas time. And that idea was born around the idea of needing to fly out to the United States for seeing our families.
Mm-hmm.
And La Paz has airports and Loreto has airports.
Yeah. One of the main reasons we picked Loreto was because they had a marina close by that we were more likely to get into than La Paz. When we were in La Paz, pretty much every single dock was full, and the anchorage in La Paz is kind of funky. There's something called the La Paz Waltz, I believe, where with the current and the tide, a lot of people come free in the La Paz anchorage. So we weren't particularly comfortable leaving our boat in the anchorages in La Paz, which really made our push towards Loreto a thing. But still, looking back, we do wish that maybe even after we had come home from the holidays, we had gone south again instead of continuing to push north. There was some things that we could have done, or some places that we wish we had stayed longer, like Espiritu Santo. Could have stayed there for another whole week.
Mm-hmm.
There was tons to see there that we really didn't get to experience.
From a timing perspective, when you end the Haha, the water is probably about as warm and clear as it's going to get. And from that point through winter, it's going to get colder and more murky. And we were not aware of that or prepared for that. So every time we kept going north, we kept going into colder and more murky water.
Mm-hmm.
And if we had stayed south longer, we would have enjoyed the water longer and been clearer. And then by the time that we had gone north, that water would have warmed up and cleared because it had been springtime.
Yeah, we got the timing all wrong.
Yeah, so our timing was wrong, and that's our advice to you, is stay south through winter, and then when spring comes around, you'll have plenty of time to make it up the actual coast. We came all the way to Penasco, just as far north as you can go. But Bay of Olay is the alternative. I would say another good thing about going up at that time frame is all of the other Baja-Haha people who stayed in Sea of Cortez are still connected with one another. So we ran into other Baja boats, like probably one out of every other anchorage we went to.
Yeah.
We'd run into somebody that was in the Haha with us.
Yeah, and even if they weren't a boat that you hung around with a lot, you're likely to recognize, one of you is likely to recognize the other's boat, and you have something to talk about. So it's a good icebreaker for even newer Haha friends. Happened to us multiple times.
So yeah, that is the Baja-Haha, and that's cruising the Sea of Cortez. If there's anything that you want to know that we haven't answered, you can let us know in the comments. Happy to just keep talking about this.
Yeah. Oh, we also wrote an article. Will, actually, not us, but Will wrote an article for Latitude 38 at the end of the Haha last year. I will also link that in the description below, so you can read that if you'd like. It kind of gives you a rundown of our start and how we got going and how a little bit about the boat. So I'll link that. And lastly, if you are going on the Haha this year and you have been watching our channel, you know who we are and aren't just here for the Haha information. We are intending to go down the Pacific coast next year of Mexico. So if you are interested in meeting up with us at some point in Mazatlan or PV or something, and especially if you're a Patreon member, either send us a DM, or if you're on Patreon, give us a shout on Patreon, and we will try to do some kind of meetup or something if anybody's around for it. So let us know.
Awesome. Thanks. Good luck on the Haha.
Yeah, have
Have fun.
fun. Bye.